How many gods are there in Hinduism? Is it 10? Is it 330 million? Is it just one? Is Jesus a god? Is Buddha a god? Are you a god? You might be wondering how I got here. Hinduism is ancient, about 3000 years old, and maybe more. Being a polytheistic religion, it has many gods. But how many exactly? As a comparison, monotheistic religions like Islam and Christianity, as the name suggests, have just one god. Meanwhile, in Hinduism, we have gods like Shiva, Ganesha, Vishnu, Agni, Vayu, Mahabali, and even this part fish, part monkey, and part reptile god, which controls the afterworld, and many more. Why is that? Well, it is a bit complicated. Again, for comparison, if we go into the timeline of Abrahamic religions, the hierarchy or the timeline goes like this. A sect of Semitic religion got split into multiple sects, which has their own books, but still the same god above everything. Meanwhile, Hinduism never had this monolithic entity to control it all. The religion is actually a combination of sub-religions, which were mutated into their own form of subcultures, which further got brought under the umbrella of one religion. And if we want to simulate its spread, it will kind of look something like this. More on that in some other video. Speaking of gods in the Indian subcontinent, before the arrival of the Aryans in ancient India, there were a number of indigenous tribes and cultures that worshipped their own gods and goddesses. These pre-Aryan gods were believed to have the power to control the forces of nature and were often associated with specific elements such as the sun, moon, and fire. Some of the most notable pre-Aryan gods in India include Proto-Murugan, who was associated with war and hunting, and Proto-Amman, who was a goddess of fertility and motherhood. These pre-Aryan gods and goddesses were eventually absorbed into the pantheon of Hindu gods, as the Aryans introduced their own gods and goddesses and influenced the religion. It is worth noting that the knowledge about pre-Aryan gods and goddesses is mostly based on archaeology, and Indus script is yet to be deciphered. That is the reason that much of what we know about them is speculative. The Aryans who migrated to ancient India around 1800 to 1600 BC brought with them a pantheon of gods and goddesses and Vedic culture, many of which were incorporated into the religious beliefs and practices of the indigenous tribes and cultures. According to Vedic tradition, there are 33 main gods and goddesses in the Aryan pantheon, also known as the 33 Devas. Then where does the 330 million number comes from? Well, in Rigveda, it says that there are 33 Koti Devas. While Koti can be considered a number, it has a secondary meaning, which is supreme. So a literal translation of that tells us that there are 33 supreme deities. Note that the list includes gods like Agni, Vayu, Surya, but the list is not consistent as the religion and the deities and the mythology has changed its form for thousands of years. But the search for this answer is not over yet. Vedic Hinduism already had 33 gods when it got formalized in the ancient India, but the list does not include deities such as Krishna, Rama, and many others. Well, to explain that, we need to create a further division, the avatars. In Hinduism, an avatar is a descent or incarnation of a deity, usually Vishnu, in human or animal form to restore cosmic order and to guide humanity on the path of righteousness. The concept of avatars is an important aspect of Hindu theology and is closely tied to the belief in the cyclical nature of existence, that is the samsara, and the ultimate goal of spiritual liberation, which is moksha. There are 10 primary avatars of Vishnu, known as Dashavatara, which translates to 10 avatars, which are considered to be the most significant incarnations. Here is the slideshow of all the Dashavataras. As you just saw, the ninth avatar is a bit confusing one, as the Buddha, who belongs to a totally different religion, is considered an avatar of Vishnu. Why is that? In the perspective of Hinduism, it is not a monolithic religion, and there are many different sects, traditions, and interpretations of its beliefs and practices. Some scholars argue that Hinduism has a tendency to incorporate and appropriate deities and practices from other religions into its own pantheon, as a way of assimilating and integrating new ideas and beliefs into its own tradition. One example of this is the inclusion of Gautama Buddha as an avatar of Lord Vishnu in some sects of Hinduism. This belief is an attempt to incorporate the teachings and beliefs of Buddhism into Hinduism. Another example is the incorporation of Islamic and Christian saints and figures into the Hindu pantheon, such as the belief that Sufi saints are incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu, or that Jesus Christ is an incarnation of Lord Shiva. It is worth noting that this tendency to appropriate deities and practices from other religions is not unique to Hinduism. It is a common phenomenon in many religions throughout history. We have seen Jesus being part of Viking and South American pantheons in its early phases. But the story doesn't end here. There are some sects in Hinduism that also worship the deities which are considered as demons by mainstream Hinduism. In Hinduism, there is a tradition of demon worship in which certain demons, known as asuras, are worshipped as deities. One example of this is the worship of King Bali, also known as Mahabali, who is revered as a benevolent and just ruler who was granted a boon by the god Vishnu that allowed him to rule the three worlds. In Hindu mythology, King Bali was a powerful Asura king who defeated the Devas and gained control of the three worlds. He was known for his generosity and fairness, and his rule was considered a golden age for his subjects. But as a revenge for taking over the three worlds, gods decided to take revenge and finish the King Bali. The Asura King Bali is still worshipped in the many regions of India. Coming to the modern times now, there have been various movements within Hinduism that promote the idea of monotheism, or the worship of a single supreme deity. These movements have arisen as a response to the perceived complexities and polytheistic nature of traditional Hinduism, and they seek to simplify and streamline the religion by emphasizing the worship of one god. One of the most prominent modern Hindu monotheistic movement is the Ramakrishna mission, which was founded by Sri Ramakrishna in the 19th century. The mission teaches the worship of the divine as a single, all-pervading consciousness and emphasizes the unity of all religions. It is important to note that these monotheistic movements are not universally accepted among Hindus, and they represent a minority view within the religion. Furthermore, many traditional Hindu scholars and practitioners reject the idea of monotheism in Hinduism, as they believe that it goes against the essence of the religion, which has always been seen as complex, multifaceted, and open-ended. Coming to our original question, how many gods are there in Hinduism? The answer is that there is no one answer. Hinduism is a diverse and complex religion with a rich history and evolution. From the pre-Aryan gods to the arrival of the Aryans to the incorporation of Jesus and Buddha, Hinduism has been shaped by various cultures and religions. One thing is for sure, with so many gods and goddesses to choose from, it's like a buffet of divinity. You can pick and choose the one that fits your taste and needs. And if you ever feel like trying something new, there is always a new god or goddess to discover. Just think, with so many options, you can even create your own god or goddess, the way ancient Hindus did when they needed a specific deity for a particular purpose. And if they can do it, you can too. So go ahead and create your own god or goddess, whether it's for love, money, or even world domination. The possibilities are endless. Thank you for watching and see you next time.